This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Find the music. There we go. Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk and our Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? We're right here live on Northeast Streaming Sports and TGI Sports Talk. And we welcome everybody who will watch this morning on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, all the different outlets that we're on. Guys, and I thank the groups that I share the shows to, which I haven't done a lot of sharing this week. It's been kind of a stressful week, but the guys that I do share it, I know a lot of you view the shows, and if you can do me a favor, make sure you like and follow. I usually go and look for the comments and the likes, and I'll invite you to the show, and that's one of the ways that we've grown the viewership and the followers. I want to get to 2,000 here right after the first of the year. And if you can like, share, and invite your friends. If you don't know how to invite your friends, just go to TGI Sports Talk and look at next to the tabs at the top. There's 3 dots. If you click it, it'll say invite friends. You can invite everybody in your friend zone. Friend zone, that's a weird but please do that. And don't fight them all at once, because if you do, Facebook will not like that. So, go invite 100 at a rip, and I'd appreciate it. You'll help grow the show, and we'll be able to do lots more stuff. But again, thank you for the participation from my regulars that are in the room. And by the way, you guys in the groups, when you watch this recorded, feel free to pop in when the show's live, because we'd love to have you in. As you know, a lot of my shows, especially this one and the College Football Huddle, are driven by your comments. Good morning, CA. You're right on time this morning. Good to have you with us. Guys, we're going to talk a lot of stuff today. I will have Jim Beringer from Full Press Hockey will be in. I know, CA, I've been promising you this for a while. He's only got about 20 minutes. He'll be in about 9 o'clock. We'll talk some NHL hockey to kick off our coverage of the season. Pretty much it'll be an update. He'll give his power. We'll look at his power rankings, maybe look at the surprises and the disappointments of the year. But we'll get things kicked off on the NHL side with Jim at 9 o'clock. We'll talk obviously some NFL news. Yesterday's games, wild game in Minnesota, and I know Rick Sherlock's going to be mad my take on this. Great win for Minnesota, great comeback for Minnesota. Falling back behind by 33 points to the Colts at home is a different topic. Anyway, some exciting games, at least the first game and the second game. We got some college football to talk about, some bowl games, and we'll look at some coaching news. There was a couple of new moves, but we'll touch on that a little bit. Major League Baseball, we'll get into Yankee signing of Rondon, Swanson, Dansby Swanson going to the Cubs, and some other stuff real quick. And maybe if we have some time, we'll get into some college basketball a little bit. Once the holidays hit here, I finally get to concentrate a little bit on college basketball, and I've just started to dive into it a little bit myself the last few days. What do you got here, CA? Great weekend of darts, football, and hockey games. More to come. Man, you are a dart playing fool. Hope you're making some money, buddy. Alan, good morning. Good to have you, Alan. If you haven't checked out Alan's content on Let's Talk Sports, please do that. Dan Harris does share a lot of my content as well, but Alan has now started a roundtable show on Wednesdays. He does a Dallas preview, which I think went up, I want to say yesterday. Maybe it was Friday. And I think Alan may start doing another interview show as well. So Alan's really starting to expand, and I'm really proud of Alan because he's really making great strides. Swanson to the Cubbies. Stop rooting for two teams, Alan. So good. By the way, speaking of Dan Harris, I did speak with Dan on Friday. He hadn't had anybody people have reached out. A lot of people have reached out. And by the way, if you follow Let's Talk Sports, please reach out to Dan. He's a good guy, and he'll appreciate the hi. But I connected with him. I set up a StreamYard invite, and we chatted for 45 minutes or so Friday afternoon, and it was enjoyable. He sounded good and upbeat. So we continue to wish Dan progress in his personal battle there. Vikings didn't score until 8:22 left in the third. Listen, is Matt Ryan like listen, he's the worst Super Bowl choke of all time. And if you remember something, after that Super Bowl, they lost to the Patriots. The following season, in 2 seasons, I guess, before Dan Quinn got fired, they blew some huge leads in the regular season even after that. So Matt Ryan, a poor guy, in the middle of a lot of stuff. So again, we'll have Jim Beringer. We'll talk about a lot of stuff, plus your topics, guys. Bring your stuff to the table here. I don't want to talk too much about the Minnesota game until I see Rick in. Let's start with the college football, I guess. Just say look at some of the scores, or from the weekend or the week, I guess. There were some good games. I mean, these aren't the marquee games. I can tell you, I went 2 out of 3 yesterday, but it was tough, tough sledding. Hang on, I got something playing here. So we'll take a look at some of that, those scores right now before we get Jim Beringer in here. Again, we'll start with college football. We'll go all over the map here today, though, so don't feel that you're. Where's my scoreboard? I lost my scoreboard. That's all right. We'll do it this way. I want to get rid of that. I don't want to get rid of that. I don't want to get rid of that. All right, guys, here we go. Let's check it out. Here's the scores from week 13. By the way, we talked a little about Mike Leach on, I don't know if we talked about Mike Leach on this show. We talked about it on the College Football Huddle, and the college football world will miss Mike Leach. He's one of the great characters in the game. Again, I've called him polarizing, which I was kind of called out for. Maybe I'm using the wrong words. There are some people that don't like Mike Leach. On his way out of Texas Tech, there was a lot of people who didn't like him. He was railroaded in that situation, and we will miss the world of college football is much worse off for Mike Leach not being with us any longer. Let's look at some of the here we go. Bowl games. Friday night. How come I don't have didn't we have games on Wednesday? How come this is only top 25 games. That's why I want them all. All right. Bear with me. I guess I'm not going to get Wednesday's games. Whatever. Friday night, Troy and UTSA, who I like a lot, Texas San Antonio. If you watch the college football show, you know I talk up Coach Trailer and that UTS team. Watch them next year, maybe being that team that really, and they competed this year for that New Year's Six bowl game, but they lost this game 12-18 or 18-12, and not a great showing. UAB, who I like, don't know how I'm doing in my picking all the bowl games pool. Can't be doing too badly, though. I split here. I did have Texas San Antonio. UAB beats Miami of Ohio 24-20. That's a winner for me. Oregon State just rails Florida. Listen, I think Billy Napier is really going to be under the gun there next year, and I think he's going to have to figure something out. He needs to get a quarterback in this transfer portal, which, by the way, we'll talk some about that. There's 1,000 scholarship players in the transfer portal already, and I think like 72 quarterbacks. You talk about chaos. And I read an article that actually, I said they're basically free agents. I've never heard it used in the transfer portal. I read an article that said free agent about 10 times in it yesterday. Louisville, who I bet and who I liked yesterday a lot, and I took them in my pools, 24-7 over Cincinnati. Cincinnati really never got it going. Interesting game here in the fact that Luke Fickell left Cincinnati. Scott Satterfield, the former coach of Louisville, has taken over Cincinnati. He did not coach this game. Obviously, nor did Jeff Brown new coach of Louisville, coach on that side of the sideline. Washington State, I did like yesterday. They got whacked by Fresno, never really in the game, 29-6. Southern Miss beats Rice 38-24. I believe I was on Southern Miss. I had BYU, actually bet them plus 5.5. I thought that was an easy bet, but it was a tough game. They won the game 24-23. SMU scored with very little time left, and they went for 2 to win the game, which, it's a bowl game. You're not playing anymore. Go for 2, end the game. In the final game yesterday, Boise State edges North Texas 35-32. So I'm off to a decent start in the bowl season. I don't know what these other games were. Let me see if I can get them here. There was a couple games earlier in the week, and I don't know why I don't have them. Oh, here it is. Oh, that's it. I guess they started Friday. I thought they started Wednesday night. I don't know why. So anyway, I guess I didn't miss anything then. So some good games. Let's see what you guys have any. Oh, yeah, same comment. Captain History Making Cut. Listen, Alan was messaging me, and I think I said to Alan as he was messaging me that Minnesota was on its way back. I mean, to be fair, I didn't watch any of this game. I was busy doing some stuff around the house. We had to get together with some friends for dinner. I didn't watch one play of this game. I was tracking it on my phone all day because I bet the Vikings. -3.5, by the way. Probably another reason I have a bad taste in my mouth this morning for them. But I said I can't get excited about a team. We'll talk more about it when we get more into the NFL. I can't get excited about a team that falls behind to a team as bad as the Colts by 33 at home. Alan will be on the LTS pregame show today. Talking Vikings and Jags. That's a good show as well. Nick Bodkins, Johnny, and can't remember who else is on that show, but they're the two main hosts. Nick does a great job as well with his shows on Let's Talk Sports as well. So good stuff. The other stuff in college football, guys, the transfer portal, as I started to say a little while ago, is absolutely out of control already. Again, over 1,000, and there could be some really mad dash to sign some of these guys here in the next few days. There's a dead period now starting on the 19th where they cannot make any visits to these schools. And I don't think kids want to wait around. I think in this next week between the holidays, you may see a bunch of kids commit. There's already been a few commitments that we know of. It's going to be very interesting to see where some of these guys go. I know that Oklahoma has been very, very active so far as far as commits up to this point, bettering their offense. They brought in Austin Stogner, who transferred out of South Carolina. They got a defensive player and linebacker, Dason McCulloch, who's a former top 50 recruit from Indiana. And they're also landing a big commitment from his younger brother, Day, if I'm saying that wrong, right? I'm probably saying it wrong. What else? What are the other? Oklahoma State lost some people. They've got Spencer Sanders transferring out of the program. Still a possibility he could come back. One of the quarterbacks that hit the transfer portal did come back this past week. I'm having trouble remember who it was, but maybe we'll come across it here. Oklahoma did lose Theo Weiss to Missouri. Michigan reunites a couple of Michigan teammates reunite at Iowa. They lost their tight end Eric All. He's going to transfer. He's going to enter the transfer portal, and he's likely to go to Iowa to join Cade McNamara. That may be a done deal by now. Western Kentucky, Austin Reed, one of the premier passers in college football. He entered the portal, and then he decided to stay with the Hilltoppers. He's the guy that I was thinking about that I read about yesterday. Some new entries this week. Again, on Western Kentucky, their lead linebacker, Jaquez Evans, entered the portal. Coastal Carolina is going to lose Grayson McCall. Grayson McCall is going to be an interesting case, whether he maybe follows Jamie Chadwell to Liberty, or maybe he ends up at Auburn, or maybe he ends up at a bigger Power 5 school in his last year. Who else? What else caught my eye here? And if you guys have some guys you want to chat about, feel free to put them up. West Virginia's losing Caden Prather. He's a sophomore wide receiver. Oh, let's see. I thought I saw a couple of quarterbacks. I will say a former OU quarterback, Nick Evers, is visiting Big Ten schools this week. But again, remember, the visits are over as of this weekend. Today's the last day. Today's the last day that they can get involved and do that. Let's see. What do you got here? World Dart Championship starts on the 15th of December and runs through New Year's. About to watch Adrian Jackpot Lewis play. Whereabouts is this taking place, CA, and where can it be watched? And are you a participant? A couple of questions for you there. What else is going on in the world of college football I wanted to chat about? Boy, I wish I could read my own damn writing here. That'd be probably helpful if I could. The coaching scene. There were some jobs filled here this past week. Again, I want to keep an eye out for Jim. Jim's got to play hockey today, so he said he'd be in around 9, and we'll get him out by 9:20 or so. So we'll get to that hockey. Oh, Rick comes in today. Rick was certainly a big participant of the NHL and wanted me to get Jim back on. So, excuse me. I know it's a tough time of year, too. By the way, we won't have a show. I should have announced it, and I'll announce it at the end. We won't have a show next Sunday on Christmas Day. Maybe we'll try to do a show Monday morning. I don't know. Saturday. Maybe Saturday I'll do a show. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll move the show to Saturday, because I don't believe I was going to go out to watch a Patriot game, but I guess I probably will not be doing that. Historic Alexandria Palace in London. I'm guessing you're not there. Maybe you are there, CA. Listen, Kenny Gifford, who's not with us yet today either, up on the mountain in Bleecker, he might be digging himself out. He had a lot of snow in this last snowstorm. He's always wanting to talk about some different sports that I just don't have any knowledge of. So we're happy to dive into a little bit of that. Which reminds me, we have the World Cup final coming up here as well. There's a little stream of consciousness as well. I believe it's today, right? I mean, the finals this morning, or maybe it's either starting or getting ready to start. Argentina and France. Messi against Mbappe, if I'm saying that name right. I'm sure I'm really trashing that. When is this game? 10 a.m. Eastern time. Again, it ought to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of big upsets, but at the end, two of the favorites, I would say, are left standing. So get on that and watch that if you're into it. I've watched a couple of games, but CA has beaten 3 former world champions off stage. Were there were these pride games, CA, or did you make a couple of shillings on these matches? I hope you did. What else is going on? I was checking out the coaches here a little bit. So who's still open? Who's signed since we last talked? And we'll talk more about this stuff on Wednesday with the College Football Huddle. Alex Golish has become the new head coach at South Florida. Stanford's still open. Kevin Wilson takes a job at Tulsa. Don't think we knew that. Texas State hired G.J. Kinney. Western Michigan hires Lance Taylor after firing Tim Lester. UNLV hires Barry Odom, who's got a lot of SEC experience, I believe. So that might be an interesting hire for them. Tim Beck has been hired at Coastal Carolina to replace Jamie Chadwell, who I said went to Liberty, and maybe bringing McCall with him. We'll see about that. North Texas still open. Purdue hires Ryan Walters to replace Jeff Brom. Still got Kent State and Navy open. And I'll say one more time, I'm just not really crazy about this whole way they handled this Navy dismissal of Coach Ken. Not cool. Okay, can I just say not cool? ADU ranks events, ranked events across the country. Is there any side wagering that goes on these things? I mean, can I get on DraftKings and make a wager on the darts? I got to check it out. Since I've got a guy with some inside information, I ought to take advantage of it. No? Nothing wrong with that. Oh, God. Deion, there's a game that I didn't talk about yet. Deion Sanders loses his final game in the championship of the HBC in the HBC championship game yesterday. Great game, very close game. They lose by 1. Deion on his way out the door stuck around a coach. So God bless him. A lot of coaches don't do this, and maybe the universities don't want them hanging around for the most part. But good job by Deion to stick around. They didn't finish their season out with a championship, but at least Deion goes out with his head held high and already making some interesting moves out in Colorado. So we'll see how that works out for him. And that's it. I mean, there isn't a lot. I don't want to get into too much. We talked about a lot of stuff Wednesday night in college football, so we won't talk too much more about that. Maybe I'll jump into a little college basketball just to kind of give you I want to give you a little bit of a feel for the rankings. If I get my damn mouse to get where I need it to go. Where did I put them here? I hit them right here. So right now, interesting enough, Purdue under Painter, 10-0. They've moved to number 1. They moved up 3 spots this week. Virginia's 8-0. Number 2, UConn playing really well under Coach Hurley, 11-0 not in the Big East, but from the Big East. They got 15 first place votes as well. Who else is left undefeated here? The major teams in the top 25. Mississippi State still 9-0. Again, a lot of non-conference play so far. These records can be a bit skewed, but I would say that's an impressive start for Mississippi State. And some disappointments. Gonzaga, who is getting ready, and I believe it's official, Alan, you can probably help me out, is getting ready to move to the Big 12. I think that's an official move from the basketball side. A little bit of a disappointing 7-3 to get started, ranked number 15. Who else we got in the top 10 here? Alabama at 8-1. Houston, underrated team. They were number 1 in the country, I think, at one point here this year, at least in one of the polls. They're now number 5. Kelvin Sampson doing a great job. Kelvin Sampson doing a great job there. Tennessee with Rick Barnes doing very well at 9-1. Texas 7-1. Their coach Beard, I don't know what's going on there. He had a domestic dispute where the cops came, and I know he was put on administrative leave. Unsure what's going to happen with that situation. We'll talk more about it maybe on the college football huddle at some point. What do you got here? We'll chat more after the holidays. Yeah, we'll make some money. Kansas is always in the top 10 at number 8, 9-1. Arizona 8-1. Still a cloud covering Arizona out there, and Coach Snyder with the FBI investigation. It's still not complete. Arkansas, Eric Musselman, a program that I like, what he's done since he's been there. I took them actually about a month before the NCAA tournament last year to win it all with some great odds. They had a decent run, but they did not make it, obviously. Got to look for these places where you can lay down 100 and make, $8,000. Baylor 7-2, Duke 10-2. Not a bad start under their new coach this year. Kentucky 7-2, Indiana 8-2, UCLA not a bad start 8-2. Good year last year. Illinois back in the hunt 7-3. Auburn with Bruce Pearl 8-1. Maryland a bit of a surprise in there at 8-2. TCU 8-1. Played really well the end of the season under Coach Jamie Dixon. Great job there. And we'll see how that holds up. Wisconsin, a lot of Big Ten teams here. Ohio State, Virginia Tech, Miami, 10-1. Jim Larragar doing a great job with Miami. Had a good run 2 years ago in the tournament. Maybe this year this team will do even better. Let's see. Not going to look too much at the conferences yet because they're just starting conference play, and there's really no sense to getting into it too much. Some other teams that have played well, though, early: Memphis, Charleston, Marquette. Iowa State, a bit of a disappointment this year. I don't know. Let's take a quick look around the conferences and see who we think are disappointments thus far. Excuse me. In the American East, I can tell you, the Albany Great Danes right here locally, big disappointment at 4-8 so far. Just to throw that one out there. Memphis, pretty good start under Penny Hardaway. Larry Brown had to step away. He was an assistant there with Penny the last couple of years. A great Larry Brown, Hall of Fame coach. He stepped away. Memphis is 9-3. Again, they haven't even started league play yet, so we'll see how that goes. If there's a disappointment in that league, it's definitely SMU, who's fallen off the map since Larry Brown, the aforementioned Larry Brown, left the program. The A10, UMass off to a good start at 8-3. It's been a while since they've had a decent team. The big disappointments here, I would say St. Bonaventure at 6-5, an uneven start for them in NOG League play. But again, you'd have to dive into the schedule to really look at that. And we'll do some of that as we move forward. The Atlantic Coast Conference, Miami, the big surprise, 2-0 in conference, 11-1 overall. Jim Larragar doing a great job, 7 wins in a row. Virginia Tech, 11-1. Got their first league win this week as well. Virginia 8-1. They got 4 teams ranked. Probably the biggest disappointment, North Carolina at 8-4. Notre Dame's off to a 7-3 start. They had a nice win over Marquette beat them, I believe, the other night. So nice win for Marquette there. And we'll look at that, how they're doing in a second. The Big 12, Kansas State is the team that's off to the best start. Disappointments? I don't know. The whole team's way over 500. You can't really say anybody's a disappointment there. Alan and I will be doing some, I'm sure, bickering back and forth about the Big 12 and how good and how deep they are at some point. But they got 5 teams in the top 20. As I said, 4 for the ACC. Big East, only 1 team ranked. St. John's is off to a good start, though, 11-1. They're going to get close to being ranked here soon. Mike Anderson's 3rd year, I believe. Time for him to really turn up the heat here. 1-0 in the conference. I got high hopes for St. John's this year. Marquette off to a good start, 9-3. As I said, they just beat Notre Dame the other day. Seton Hall off to a bit of an uneven start, 7-5 on their new coach Holloway came from St. Peter's after their great run last year, and Georgetown 5-7 in non-league play, and Patrick Ewing needs to get it together. And by the way, rest in peace to the great Louis Orr. Louis Orr, stalwart at Syracuse when he went to school there. He's in the Ring of Honor or whatever they call it, and was coaching with, interesting enough, he was coaching at Georgetown with Patrick Ewing. So we'll say rest in peace to Louis Orr. Great coach, great, he's a good player, a great player in college and a decent player in the NBA. And he's been a coach for a long time, former coach here at Siena locally. So we Godspeed, Louis Orr. We'll talk more about that maybe on Wednesday's show. But with that said, we're gonna segue quickly here from that to Jim Barringer, who I know is a bit cramped for time today because he's got to get on the ice, I believe, here in a little while. How are you, Jim?
Yo, what's going on, Keith? How we doing here? Sunday, back again. Here we go.
Listen, it's nice to be able to hear you this time. I figured out my audio problem the other night. You'll never believe it. Somehow I had the main computer sound muted. How we could hear each other when I unhooked everything, I still don't know. But I looked when they got done and I had it muted. This first thing I probably should have looked at and I didn't. So
that's all right. You can hear me now, so that's all that matters.
Anyway, good to have you in today, and it's good to kick off our NHL coverage with you this morning. And I know you don't have a lot of time. So Jim, by the way, you got to catch his work on fullpresshockey.com. It's a great site, CA. I know you're a big hockey fan. You want to make sure you get in there and read Jim's stuff, not just his power rankings, but also some of the other articles he writes. And he also contributes to Let's Talk Sports. And what am I missing? The last word on hockey, or on Mad Radio, you have the last word on hockey as well. Well,
that's
right?
correct. Yeah, I'm everywhere pretty much.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I don't think you missed anything.
You missed that WFAN. We got to get you that gig. How about that?
Yeah, I don't have WFAN on my end at all.
They're lost.
I know Dan Carubia has been pushing hard for hockey coverage on WFAN. And I tell everybody, well, just let them know I'm your hockey guy. So
there you go.
Let me know there. Got my radio hit in the morning tomorrow on Saga 960 in Canada.
Really?
Yeah. So I'll have that on Monday morning. So
cool.
Yeah, Ringmaster is in the house. Is right.
Good morning, Billy. Good to have you in, and it's good to have Jim here for our first hockey update of the year. And since we haven't talked, I mean, we'll talk in general today. Take a look. Your power ratings are out this week in fullpresshockey.com. What are your takeaways so far? We can look at your power rankings, but what are the big surprises? Obviously, your Devils are a big surprise. They've swooned a little bit recently, but
yeah, they've come back to earth a little bit.
But they're still one of the big surprises, I think, good surprises of this early season, no?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you look at it as a whole, I mean, definitely really good surprise at 44 points. I mean, obviously Vegas and Boston ahead of them. But the way, recently a little slide. But if you look at it where they were expected to finish and how they started the year, and, it could have been the same old after 2 games. And then the team was really buying into the championship mentality, the winning mentality. We got to have we got to buy into the system. We can't let things get us down. And, you can see there's frustration on this team recently, but they went on that 13-game heater. They got wins against teams they had to win against. Then towards the end of November, a little stretch there where, you win 1, win, lose 1, win 3, lose, win, lose, win. But then you had a little time off in between games, and I think it's stymied the momentum a little bit. Just a tough stretch right now. I mean, it's easily turned around. They know how to fix it. Again, you got to preach patience, as we've seen around the league, because you can't panic. You can't, it's like in any sport, really. Fans have their guys that they don't like on a team. For the Devils fans, it's David Severson. He's a longtime defenseman there on a team. They don't like what he does, turnovers. This guy. But if you watch the game last night, you could see that they were missing him defensively, just giving up too many odd man rushes. So for the faults that he has of trying to be an aggressive player offensively, because that's what he is, sometimes you miss what you don't have. And the Devils definitely missed him yesterday for sure. It was a healthy scratch. But you know what? They're still a surprise. They're still playing well. You just got to turn it around. As they say, it's in the room. The Rangers said the same thing. It's in the room. Toronto. And so on goes on the line, because that's what it's all about. I mean, you can't peak too early, but you can't peak too late, because you may find yourself out of it.
And you did. I know they're number 5 in your rankings this week. You had them number 1 previously. I mean, do you seriously think, and remove your Devils jersey for a minute, which I think you're certainly able to kind of look at it subjectively. Is this team a Stanley Cup contender, or again, they're not going to be as bad as they were the last couple of years. I'm assuming they're better than that. This isn't a mirage. Are they a legitimate contender, do you think?
No, I don't think they're a legitimate contender to win a Stanley Cup. I think for sure, I think they'll be a playoff team, but I don't think they're a legit team to win a Stanley Cup. I think, a couple of years down the road. Hi, Amanda. My number one fan. There she is.
She's ever mentioned me in her good mornings. It's always you. Jeez, Amanda.
But as I was saying, like, I think a couple years down the road, I think they're missing a couple of guys right now. So you think about it, right? Bastian on their fourth line, where they were having that BMW of Bastian, McLeod, and Wood. That was really physical speed, banging line, fourth line. Andre Palat hasn't played outside the beginning of the year. He's dealing with a groin issue. So they're going to get these guys back. So hopefully that's going to help their lineup. But I think they still have a couple of pieces. I think they need to get a true number one goalie. I think that's an area position that'll definitely put them over the edge. It's not the goaltending hasn't been bad this year. It's actually been an improvement this year. But I think overall, I think that's something they'll definitely want to increase, and maybe goal scoring as well, because they don't have enough finishers on this team.
Are we surprised? But I'm going to go out west for a second. And I know Bill, you got a question too about out west, so I'll get that up in a second. I see the Kraken are playing fairly decent hockey. Would you consider them one of the surprises this year, or was it somebody you thought was going to make a bit of a leap this year?
No, I think it's definitely a nice surprise considering the embarrassment that they were last year as a new team in the league. I mean, nobody's going to be Vegas and what they did in their first year, where the first Stanley Cup final. But considering all the rules and everything of the expansion draft last year, that team was definitely a major disappointment. And this year they bounced back. But that's what happens when you get goal scoring and goaltending. I mean, Grubauer, he's still not 100%, but you have Martin Jones playing the way he's playing. You have, Andre Burakovsky, Jaden Schwartz, Jordan Eberle, former Islander. All these guys are starting to score goals. Matty Beniers, the rookie's in there, and he's brought this level up. Everybody can, talk about how they handled Shane Wright, the number 4 pick in the draft, and, everything. They had a plan. When the team started off this good, you don't need to get him in the lineup. I personally think they should have just sent him back to junior, but he goes down to the AHL. He has that conditioning stint. He has 4 goals in 5 games. Then he's going off to World Juniors, and he'll probably, go back to junior, which is fine for him, because don't forget, this kid lost development during COVID. So, he's one of those guys that lost some time developing in the COVID year for his draft class. So, it's good to see him playing well.
Good. And before I go on to some of your other surprises, let me get this question out here before I miss it from Billy, who I think just roots for anybody with JET in their name. He wants to know if you think the Jets are a contender this year. Playing well now.
Jets are playing well this year. It's good to see them. I mean, definitely one of my surprises this year. I don't think a lot of people expected the Jets to be this good. Everybody's always been on the Jets train for the last, couple of years. When Paul Maurice was there. They shook some things up. Rick Bowness comes in, takes the C off of Blake Wheeler. And then, it seemed like that ignited something in Wheeler that you hadn't seen in a while. Connor Hellebuck's turned back the clock to when he won a Vezina Trophy. Josh Morrissey stepping up as a guy that could be a Norris Trophy type defenseman. Neil Pionk's playing well. And then up front, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele. And then here's this guy, Pierre-Luc Dubois, last offseason says, probably not going to resign in Winnipeg, having one of his best seasons of his career. So that could change some things under Rick Bowness. Maybe they can get him signed to a long-term deal. If not, he's going to be a potential trade guy. But if they're sitting in this position, they're not going to move him until the offseason, or he can resign. But, the top players for the Jets are being their top guys, especially with guys like Nikolai Ehlers out, and now Blake Wheeler's hurt, Neil Pionk's hurt. So they're stepping up, and they're winning games against teams they're supposed to win against.
And where else, in your mind, what else has surprised you in a good way so far in this early in this hockey season? Well, it's not that early. We're 30.
We're past the quarter mark of the season. Yeah. It's not that early anymore. I mean, to me, I think one of the big surprises, you can call it's not a surprise anymore, but at the beginning of the year, it was a surprise. Boston on how well they were playing, especially at home ice. Considering, think about this. To start the year, no Grizzlick, no Brad Marchand, no Charlie McAvoy. Okay. This team, everybody said, okay, survive the first part of the year, get close to a wild card spot, just hang on until your guys come back. Well, Marchand, McAvoy, Grizzlick all come back ahead of schedule. Krejci's re-signed. Now you have a second line center. They're moving pieces around to fit in, and Pasternak's off to his best start of his career. The Bruins are 16-0-2 at home on home ice. Their goaltending has been great, and they're sitting, and it's like same old Bruins atop the Atlantic Division. I don't think anybody expected them to be that good that quickly, but that's definitely a surprise. I think Vegas is surprised as well. A lot of questions around goaltending. Was it Logan Thompson? We shouldn't have been shocked considering what he did last year at the end of the year. But the team just didn't perform well in front of him. But he has a good World Championships for Team Canada. Starts off as a house of bricks. Aiden Hill's playing well. Jack Eichel, Mark Stone are healthy. Pete DeVore is a really good, coach. We know that after what he did, but he's down in Dallas. So you bring in Bruce Cassidy from Boston. They got their guy. The Penguins definitely surprised. Again, the big question mark was, okay, when is Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh all going to take a step back? Well, they're all getting hot at the right time. Pittsburgh's back in it. Washington's back in it. We'll see how long Pittsburgh can do this thing with Malkin, Crosby, and Letang all back re-signed. Maybe 1 or 2 more years before this thing starts to go the other way. And then, obviously, Dallas to me is a nice surprise out in the Central Division as well. They're playing well. Their goaltending, Jake Ottinger's and Scott Wedgwood, playing really well. Obviously, when you add a guy like Mason Marchment, it brings the level up. Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson on their heaters. The ageless one, Joe Pavelski. And then that means Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn can take a step back. Ben's having a great resurgence of a year. And you have to wonder, it's like, okay, well, we don't have to get there. They don't have to be kicked in the butt anymore.
Of these teams that are surprised, who would you say is actually for real and not going to step back, would have a chance to make a run here in the Stanley Cup playoffs when we get there?
I think when Ottinger gets back for Dallas, I think they have a legit shot to make a run to a Stanley Cup final because of what we saw in the playoffs last year where he almost knocked out the Calgary Flames single-handedly by himself because he made 50 saves a night. Obviously Boston is a legit Stanley Cup contender. So is Vegas. And they're back to
put up CA's comment about the Bruins here.
Yeah, Bruins are the most complete team to me. I just think, Don Sweeney pushed the right buttons, got the right players in, got the right coach. Good for Jim Montgomery. Moving guys up and down the lineup. You think about it, Taylor Hall's making, $8 million a season. He's playing on your third line with Charlie Coyle. Saka's moving up and down the lineup with Pasternak and Krejci. DeBrusk's up top with Marchand, but all these guys can move around, which is good. And then you're getting production out of guys that you expected that needed to take a next step, like a Trent Frederick, which is good to see because he always believed he had the talent to be in the NHL. And now it's showing off because he's playing with the right guys and he knows his role. And that's what a lot of these good teams know. These players have to be in these roles and they have to know them. And that's what makes good teams successful.
Yeah. On the flip side, I mean, what teams are you disappointed? Now, I was disappointed in the Rangers until recently. They're on a 6-game winning streak.
6-game winning streak, yeah.
They had a very uneven start, though, before that. I mean, I would call them a disappointment, at least up till now. I don't know how you would view it, but what about them and some other teams that you would say are maybe not in trouble, but a disappointing start to the season?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have said the Rangers were a disappointing start. I think fans' expectations were a little bit higher than maybe they should have been because, they went to an Eastern Conference final last year. Mm-hmm. But they had to start pushing the right buttons. It's not like Gerard Gallant forgot how to coach, right? If you're going to rely on the kids, you got to put them in the right situation to win, right? It's a completely different team this year. The chemistry is completely different. You lost guys like Frank Vetrano, Ryan Strome, Tyler Mott, Andrew Kopp, guys like that are out. So if you're going to rely on the kids, you move them up. He's pushed the right buttons the last couple of games. Barclay Goodrow is a top 6 player. He's getting the puck over to guys like Zibanejad, Panarin. That's a good the kid lines as the second line now. And then when you have Kreider and Trocheck on your third line, they're well balanced now. And Sammy Blais, he's finally getting healthy. And then you have, goaltending. Igor stepped up. Halak had a good game against the Flyers. Everybody says, "Oh, the Flyers are disappointment." I think this is expected who we were. It didn't matter, John Tortorella, what he was going to do. This team was always going to be a bad team. To me, I think Columbus is a major disappointment this year to me because of the guy that Gaudreau signed, a 7-year contract to go there. Laine re-signed. They should be better than this, right? But maybe that's who they were. Anaheim is just really just bad team. I mean, they've won 2 in a row, but they're just a young team, and they're going to be sellers at the deadline. Guys are going to be moved out. I would say, it's funny. Before I go on with disappointments, I'm just looking at San Jose, right? Mm-hmm. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, but it's good to see Erik Karlsson have a good season again. Nice to see him bouncing back after his injury, healthy, playing well. To me right now, I think, Calgary, Edmonton, St. Louis, teams like that are disappointing because, maybe, with Calgary, they moved a lot of pieces around, chess pieces, with Tkachuk and Gaudreau moving out. You bring in Huberdeau, Weegar, Kadri. Maybe Darryl's got to, I don't know, coach differently because it's not a speed team anymore. It's a more grinding team, and everybody thought they'd be better. I think their goaltending just needs to be better. I think Markstrom needs to step up. Edmonton, too. I think, again, the Alberta goaltending. You bring in Jack Campbell. He's not getting it done. Stuart Skinner. They miss Evander Kane after he got cut on the wrist. Luckily, he's okay. But they're definitely missing his presence. Connor and Leon can't do it all by himself. Defensively, the Oilers are who we thought they were. And, obviously, Florida in the East, everybody's, this is a disappointment. But I think a lot of people, including myself, had them taking a step back. They weren't a President's Trophy team, but maybe they weren't a, missed the playoff type of team. But they're right there still. But definitely, considering who they had and who they brought in, I'd say that's a disappointment right now. But teams that were at the bottom are starting to move up. So at the beginning of the year, Montreal was a pleasant surprise because they were better than their record, but they're starting to come back to who we thought they were.
Yeah. I'll make one prediction myself before we go on to a couple other questions and let you go. My prediction will be that the Rangers and Gallant will be the Mad New Yorkers' new mantra to fire the coach. That'll be prediction number 1. And he will also claim he was right about Barry Trotz if the Islanders continue to play as they are tonight. But
well, I mean, look, they won last night in Vegas, but again, to me, the Islanders are so inconsistent, especially offensively. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, that's a team that could be better offensively if they brought in a sniper. They need a finisher, but it's too many games. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you don't watch enough Islanders games. I watch a ton of Islanders games. I watch a ton of hockey. If you want to be a good team in this league, you have to consistently score goals. One night they score 5 goals. The next night they score 2 goals. It's not, you have to be, I know their numbers look better, but they're relying again on defense and goaltending and timely goals. Washington is pushing. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders missed the playoffs again.
Interesting. Before we let you go, what else should we know about what's happened so far or what will be coming here soon?
I mean, look, so goals, we talk about goal scoring. Goal scoring's up again this year. No lead is safe in the National Hockey League. You think you're up 4-0? Don't rest on your laurels, man. Got to play defense. Got to play hard to the end of the whistle because we've seen too many leads. When the sky is falling, you got to preach patience. Like we saw Toronto at the beginning of the year in October. Oh, sky is falling. World is burning. The city's on fire. They didn't play well on the West Coast. Well, they just turned it around. Same with the Rangers, Tampa. They're just doing their thing, right?
I was going to say Tampa, and to me, you can't say they don't have a shot at getting to the finals again.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're right there. They know. See, what the good teams understand is there's 2 seasons. There's a regular season. There's a postseason. Yeah. You got to play well enough in the regular season to just get to the dance, and then anything can happen, and you turn that switch. So we'll see there. I think it's really wide open right now, especially in the Western Conference. I agree. I mean,
Right.
even in the East, you really don't know. Outside of those three teams in the Atlantic, it's kind of wide open on who's going to get there. A lot of rumors floating around in regards to expanded playoffs and this and that. Gary Bettman shot that idea right down. He's like, nope, we're not doing it.
We need more teams in the playoffs.
We don't need any more teams in the playoffs.
No, I mean,
look, I tell everybody, I said, throw the NFL out the book because they're like, oh, well, the NFL did it. I'm like, the NFL is the NFL and football is king.
They shouldn't have done it either, though. I mean, it just waters down the regular season means less and less more teams you let in the playoffs.
Yeah, but they only added what? It's 3 wild card teams now?
Yeah, but that's still 7 teams out of 16 in every conference. That's almost 50%. It's 40% of the teams get into playoffs.
Right, but still, I mean, again, it's the NFL. People are going to watch it because it's the NFL. NFL's king, and that's what's going to matter.
I don't disagree.
I don't like what Major League Baseball did, and I don't like what the NBA did because it's too confusing because it doesn't matter. But Gary Bettman's like, we have the best first round in hockey, in the sports, doesn't matter. And so he already shot that idea down. And then there's rumors coming out about, oh, maybe what are we going to do with the schedule? Add more rivalry games? Are we going to add more games? First of all, if they do anything with the schedule, the National Hockey League Players Association is going to have a say in what they do with the schedule. They're not adding more games, even though it's been discussed. When you see headlines, it was a 20 to 30-second conversation at the Board of Governors meeting that everybody has an agenda, everybody brings something. Players, actually, if you talk to a lot of people, and especially a lot of Southern owners, they want the season to start in November. They want 76 games because they don't want to deal with the NFL in October.
Right.
So there's traction on both sides. It's not going to happen, not right now. And if they're going to go to 84, they're going to drop the preseason games. There doesn't need to be more games. The season is long as it is. And a lot of players are like, just keep it the way it is and just drop training camp. It doesn't need to be a month. We don't need 6 preseason games. Especially the veteran guys don't want to play that many games. Don't want to be in training camp for a month. Especially if you go in, look at Tampa and Colorado. How many years they got to come back early because training camp starts in September. Guys need time off. And
yeah, they have 2 months off. I mean, the playoffs go almost to July, for crying out loud.
Right, exactly. So the teams that go to the final don't have a lot of time off.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. If you want more, the NHL tried this fabricated Wednesday night rivalry thing when they had NBC, right? It didn't work because rivalries have to happen organically. The reason why we have the divisional playoffs is, we want rivalries to happen. Okay? But don't push it in the regular season. You just can't cite Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, and Calgary as a reason to add more rivalry games.
Right.
Those teams have history of playing against each other in the playoffs. It's built up. I don't think anybody wants to see Dallas and Arizona play 8 times in the regular season.
No, that's what'll happen. You have a bunch of meaningless rivalry games.
Exactly, because it's forced. Just keep it the way it is. My friend and I were talking about this. Add 1 rivalry game. So keep 4 divisional games instead of the 3 that they have now, and then you rotate 2 every couple of years inside your own division against a rival. It makes sense. But again, I don't think it's going to happen because the PA has to sign off on it. The 84-game season happened 2 years in 92 to 94 because they had to make up some revenue and stuff, but they're not. It's not going to happen anytime soon because the PA doesn't want it. And the PA, as it is, wants the World Cup of Hockey. And right now, it was supposed to happen in 2024. It got pushed back to 2025 because the players are insistent upon their brethren from Russia to play in this tournament. They want best on best. They want them there to have a best on best tournament.
That'd be best for hockey for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't have a tournament without one of the best hockey nations in the world, regardless of politics, regardless of what you think is going on. It's like the World Juniors. Russia's not there. You're not going to see some of the best players there playing.
Good point. Well, Jim, I know you got to go play some hockey, I think, today.
No, I got to ref some hockey today.
You're reffing today. Sorry, I misunderstood what you told me yesterday, I guess. So anyway, keep them, honest on the court, on the ice today.
I'll keep them on. I'll keep them honest on both. Don't worry.
And, don't watch out for the Zamboni, and good luck. Well, thanks for coming in and bring it as you always do. And we'll be talking soon.
Absolutely. As we said on Wednesday, we gave a holiday surprise to everybody today.
We did. Yes. Good job. Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you. Thank you for having me. Always have a pleasure. And everybody have a good holiday season.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. The great Jim Beringer from FullPressHockey.com, Mad Radio, and The Last Word on Hockey, which airs on Let's Talk Sports and the Mad Bit Radio Network and whatnot. Billy, sorry I didn't get this up here. I know I had to get Jim out, and I didn't want to get him over time here, which I did by a minute. But you're right. That type of stat, and Jim will say it, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, when we have Jim back. Keep track of this stat, Billy, and bring it up again, because this type of thing is what really turns teams into surprises or disappointments. If they are not good at penalty killing, it can kill you, obviously, just like having that type of ranking can certainly help you. So anyway, great to have Jim Beringer in with us today. And I guess what we'll do now, it's 9:26. Let's, you guys, again, we can jump into any topics that you guys want to, but I think I'm going to get into the NFL now. I don't know if I'm assuming Rick's not with us today. That's unfortunate, because I want to talk about yesterday's games, and we'll talk about today's games and our standings as we're winding down to 4 games left. Well, our standings on the pick'em, and also the standings in general. Yesterday's game, some very interesting games. 3 wall-to-wall football yesterday between college, some college bowl games that were interesting, as I talked about earlier, and 3 kind of entertaining, I guess, on different levels, pro games. In the 1:00 game, by the way, I couldn't find any of these games on, I had to watch them on FOBU, which, by the way, if you guys ever have trouble watching games because they aren't in your market, there's an app. I'd be glad to share the app. There's an app you can get on your phone, which is FOBU, FOBU Sports, I believe. And you can basically watch any sporting event you want to watch, including every NFL football game. I often, unless I'm out watching the games, obviously, will put the Patriots on if they're not on TV, and put it on my phone and mirror it to my TV. So you can watch any game you want. It'll buffer now and again, and you got to grab a new feed, but it's really a pretty good system. Legal, I don't know. Don't care. The Vikings and Colts yesterday, 39-36. And again, I hope some of my negativity here isn't because I went down on a bet by half a point, because the Vikings won by 3. We get excited. We had this with the Cowboys last week, and, being transparent, I mean, I would probably spin a Patriot win like this into a positive. And if you fell behind a really good team and came back like this, to me, it's much easier to spin that in a positive way. But what I got to worry about is the fact that at home, first of all, just a couple of weeks ago, they lost 40-3 to the Cowboys. Now, that's a good football team, okay? To fall behind 33-0 to this Colt team is embarrassing. Yes, great win to come back. Kirk Cousins played well, getting them back in the game. But, defensively and offensively, again, they didn't score, as CA said earlier, till like 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Very, very reminiscent of the 28-3 choke job the Falcons did, Matt Ryan, who's also the quarterback in this game, did in the Super Bowl against the Tom Brady led Patriots. Once again, my monitor's gone out. My God, I don't know what the deal is here, but it's like giving me epilepsy the way it's going on and off. I don't know what the situation is here. We're going to have to get tech support involved at work because I'm getting ticked off. I may unhook the damn thing. and go to my small screen. I think I am, because this is pissing me off. All right. We'll just get this up on the small screen. Makes it a little harder for me to read it. That's all. Anyway, you can look at this a lot of ways. By the way, Matt Ryan, again, blows the Super Bowl potential win, 28-3. The Patriots didn't score till 9. I'm sorry. They were down 28-3 with 5 minutes and 42 seconds, I believe, left in the third quarter. This is a very similar result here. I'll get to your comments in a second. But Matt, and you can blame the coach, you can blame whoever you want. You know, you can say, well, the Patriots didn't win. Or you can say the Vikings didn't win. Listen, you had to come back and win. So as much as I'm faulting the Vikings for falling behind 33 to nothing, they did come back. And it isn't all the Colts. It isn't like, oh, they should have run the football. They should have done this. They should have done that. Well, a lot of things are dictated by what the other team is doing. So I'll give the Vikings credit for coming back and win here, but you got to be concerned. And if you're honest, you've got to be concerned. If your team falls behind, again, if it's Dallas you're playing and you fall behind 33-0, you come back and win. Don't tell me that's not a better victory than this. And again, Matt Ryan now has got some of the worst losses in the history of the game. Not just that Super Bowl win and not just this game. After that Super Bowl loss, that Dan Quinn Falcon team and Matt Ryan Falcon team lost a bunch of regular season games with huge leads. One of them was to the Cowboys. During the COVID season, I think. Just ugly football. This Jeff said, and again, you got to look on the sideline. You got to wonder if you had a real head coach over there, do you blow that 33-point lead? I don't really know. Oh, what do you got here? Fresh take. If the fumble under 4 minutes left would have played out as it should have with a 2-point conversion, Colts get the back, get back. Yeah, well, you know, it's funny. We always talk about ifs, but, you know, I don't remember the exact situation because, again, I wasn't watching all of this game, so not knowing exactly the context here, CA. Trying to remember what happened here. I know I saw the highlights. Played out as it should have with a 2-point conversion. Colts get the ball back tied with around 3:25 left. I got you. I think I know where you're coming here from here. But again, what if? Says I get on Allen a lot because, we'll talk about, Alabama is really a 7-5 team if blah, blah, blah. Well, they aren't, right? And again, things play out the way they play out. Plus, you don't know. We never know, right? We say, if this hadn't happened at this point in the game, well, yeah, it changes that moment in the game, but we don't know what would have happened after that. I don't know that Matt Ryan doesn't throw a pick six tied with 3 minutes and 25 seconds left, and I get a cover. But I get your point. Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk, the history maker. You know what? Kirk Cousins goes into the playoffs and loses. Nobody's going to remember this game. Nobody will remember this game. They remember and I did some bad math on the Mac and Jack show this morning because I thought this was tied with the Buffalo playoff win over Houston, and I was reminded that was 32. I couldn't do math apparently. Perth graduate and all. Where was I going with that? Oh, nobody's going to remember this game. They're going to remember the Buffalo-Houston game because it was a playoff game. Nobody's going to remember this game. Now, maybe if Kirk Cousins were to win a Super Bowl, which is a big if, by the way, they might remember this type of performance. But nobody's going to remember 5 years from now that they came back. It's just going to be another comeback win. It's not going to be on NFL Classics, that's for sure. Colts defense disappeared. Well, again, maybe the Vikings offense showed up. You can't. That's the thing, Neil. And good morning, Neil. Great to have you with us this morning. You can't just anytime this happens. I had this argument with a lot of people during the Patriot Falcons Super Bowl, and people tell me, "Oh, the Patriots never would have won this game." Blah 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 because the Falcons this and the Falcons that. Well, you can't just dismiss what the other team is doing to cause those types of decisions to be made, or the defense to stop playing. I don't disagree with you. I would say that they played over their head, or the Vikings' ineptitude on offense played into, how well the defense looked up to that point. This is not a good football team, guys. It's just not. And Jeff Saturday's not a good coach. I would say if you had a real football coach over there, maybe some decisions would have made, maybe that would have impacted how this game finally turned out. And Matt Ryan, I mean, to be honest, Matt Ryan is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. And I love Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan went to school with a good friend of mine's son at Boston College, Josh Beekman. He made it to the NFL for a few years as well. And he's a good kid. Met him, more than once. Met his dad and had a few adult beverages with his dad. He's a great kid. Well, he's not a kid anymore. But I don't know that Matt Ryan's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, he's got a lot of numbers, but, a lot of guys have really good numbers today. No Super Bowl rings. Some of the worst losses, including in a Super Bowl in the history of football, the worst loss, right? This stuff, again, probably nobody's going to remember that stuff when they do their voting, but, I don't know. Shanahan's play calling blew that Super Bowl. Again, it's too funny. We always want to fault the team that loses and blows a big lead, which is, you should. You're well in your rights. But when you're playing the Patriots, I understood the mindset. He wanted to pour it on and get another score. And now you can see why he wanted to get another score because, and listen, I was watching that game on a cruise ship and loaded, by the way, with Falcons and fans and Patriot haters. I kept saying, I've stayed relatively calm. Of course, I'd been drinking since about 10 a.m. One score. Yeah, there's always reasons a team blows a game, but you can't totally dismiss what the team is doing on the other side of football. I will never, buy into that philosophy. Could have, should have, yeah. What if the world is made of what ifs? I was trying to think. There's a saying with what if that I'm not thinking of right now. But anyway, what it could have, should have. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you lost the game, and both sides had something to do with that. I'm not telling you that whatever. And Shanahan's play calling and by the way, Dan Quinn has last say on what happened. So let's not absolve Dan Quinn for that loss. And yesterday, the defense went away, but the Vikings execution also got better. So again, there are reasons on both sides of the football that you build this big lead and you blow this big lead. It's not one-sided where, this team just totally, did they choke? Yes. But you always have some help doing it. Elsewhere, the Browns, gosh, I'm not going to say his name. Just not going to say his name. The Browns beat the Ravens yesterday 13-3, hurting the Ravens' chances to win the AFC North. We'll see what Cincinnati does today against Cincinnati got today. Tampa Bay. Good game on the Ravens side. J.K. Robbins runs for 125 yards. Nice game for him. Nick Chubb, 99 yards. Nick Chubb's had a really good season on a really bad team. I've got him on a fantasy team, so I can speak to the fact that he has been very, very good. And again, I will tell you, even though they won, the disgusting human being that plays quarterback for the Browns didn't play all that great. 18 of 28 and a touchdown. Browns defense played really well. Myles Garrett was really good. And they lost because, Tyler Huntley is not an NFL quarterback. So that's the deal there. I'm really disappointed Rick's not here to kind of talk about this Vikings game a little bit. So anyway, that was probably the least exciting game of the day. Later on, we had, come on, boy, this freaking thing. More computer issues than, there we go. Buffalo tried hard to blow this game yesterday. It was a hard-fought battle. Buffalo finally wins on a last-second field goal, 32-29, after falling behind a couple of times here in the second half. The weather, I guess, could have been a factor. But the Dolphins now fall to 8-6. The Patriots with a win today in Las Vegas would be tied with the Dolphins. The Dolphins do have a win in hand, but the Patriots will be playing them very, very soon. Dolphins are coming back to the pack. I thought all along this playoff race in the AFC would come down to the last spot would come down to San Diego, the Jets, and the Patriots. Now Miami's put themselves in the mix. You know what? And don't tell me, when I went in on Mac and Jack this morning, they were having a little debate. Well, not much of a debate because Jack brought it up, and it's dead wrong. He thinks that the NFL is doing a disservice to the Dolphins by sending them to Buffalo, and they're going to play in Foxborough in a couple of weeks. You know what? They don't always play there in December. And if you always schedule the games, his argument was teams in bad weather cities should always play later in the season in those fair weather cities. Well, that's just baloney, because then you're giving those fair weather cities all kinds of advantages. You're going to give them a bunch of home games in December and November because the Dolphins can't go play in the elements. Football's been played in the elements for 100 years ish. 90, whatever it is. Ticks me off. So you want to give them an advantage? Well, it's not easy for the Patriots or teams from the North to go play in the heat in Miami in September either, by the way. Or LA or wherever. And I don't want dome stadiums. It's such an antiseptic atmosphere. I hate it. Hate it. I want to go outside and watch games in the elements. I've sat through for 10 years with Patriots season tickets. Bill Pulver went to a Giant game with me one time. It was probably colder than hell because I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Billy, it was New Year's Eve. Giants and Patriots. And it was colder than hell. Well, I sat through a lot of cold games there. But you know what? That's an advantage for them that time of year. That's why the Patriots for years, home field advantage was so important, because you have to go up there and play in the elements. And that's how football should be played. Not inside an air-conditioned freaking dome. Can Captain Kirk win a Super Bowl in the early evening? No, he can't win a Super Bowl in the early afternoon. We joke about the fact that he can't win in prime time, but he didn't win at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He lost 40-3 at home against the Cowboys. This guy's never going to win anything. Nothing. And nobody's going to remember this history-making game for Kim. Buffalo did squeak in a 2-point play. I love the 2-point conversion. I think it's one of the best things football ever did was put that in years ago now. But I think it adds a level of excitement. And if only more coaches knew when to do it, and if only more coaches did it, and more are doing it at the end of games rather than just taking their team to overtime and relying on a coin flip. Go win the game now. right? I mean, Billy's first game in person. Yeah, we had a lot of fun that day. I think Eddie Brown, who's not with us anymore, I think Ed Brown went with us, and I don't know who else was with us. Mark probably was with us, I'm sure. Sometimes he didn't make the cold weather games, but I think it was Mark with us and Ed Brown. Great. Ed Brown was a great guy. We had a lot of fun that day, Billy. We had a lot of fun for a lot of years doing that. Lots of fun. So that yesterday's games do impact the standings, obviously. I guess I'll go back to that in a second. Because right now the Bills have locked up a playoff slot. If the Chiefs were to win today, they'd still be tied for the best record. And Buffalo has the tiebreaker there because they beat Kansas City earlier in the year. And look at the road to the Super Bowl in the AFC is going through either Kansas City or Buffalo. Patriots right now, as we talk today, are in the playoffs because they hold tiebreakers over the Jets and the Chargers. And now, as I said, another wild card is coming back into play with the Dolphins. I thought they were going to be a lock, and we had a three-way race. Well, right now we got for one spot, and now we got let's see, if you want to say Patriots, Jets. Well, I think the Jets are done. We'll get on them in a second. That one's going to be done. You could throw the Browns possibly in there. That's probably it. So you probably got a 4-team race or a 5-team race for 2 spots. Like the Patriots' chances a lot better there, and they could set themselves up for. Why does this thing keep bouncing around on me? My God, I'm getting so frustrating. Jesus, just sit still. The screen is bouncing all over the place. The Patriots have the Dolphins on New Year's Day. I was thinking they played the last game of the season, but they play the Bills on the 8th. But they play the Dolphins on New Year's Day, and that game could be a play-in game for these two teams potentially, or if not a play-in game, it's going to be a very important game once we get there. Very important game for the Patriots today. Got to win in LA, and then they're going to have to find a way to win at least one out of the next 3 games after that against the Bengals, the Dolphins, as I mentioned, and the Bills, as I mentioned. What do you got here, Alan? Chiefs and Cowboys can clinch playoff spots today. Yes, they can. Vikings, I believe, have already clinched a playoff spot. They still theoretically have a chance at home field, but this team's not playing at home. You know, I know that early in the season, I was a huge detractor of the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. This is the best team in football. Sorry, Alan. Your team's not beating this team. They're too talented on both sides of the ball. The only team that can beat the Eagles right now is the Eagles. I firmly believe that. We're far enough into the season. 13. We're in week 15. It's their 14th game coming up today. They're the best team in the league. And again, I'm talking about the NFC. The only team that can beat them is themselves. Maybe the 49ers, who I wasn't high on either. If they get Deebo Samuel back at 100% for the playoffs, then maybe they will have a shot. They played some great football recently, and what Brock Purdy's done there is nothing short of amazing. And by the way, I know the Mad New Yorker likes to run down the Shanahans, but how can you think Kyle Shanahan? We talked Coach of the Year. I never mentioned his name. Kyle Shanahan now, I've got to think, is one of the front runners for the Coach of the Year. He's got his 3rd string quarterback, a guy who was the last pick in the draft. And he's still winning football games. Josh Allen tries to do too much Yeah, the problem with Josh Allen is he needs to do too much. They need a better running game, a more consistent running game, and he's it. And that's why the problem with guys like Josh Allen is that's how they know how to play. And he isn't unlike some of the other runners, Billy. And I think this is a little bit to your point. He likes to take tacklers on, head on. He doesn't like to slide. He will now and again, but he plays with a linebacker mentality, and he's bigger and tougher than some of these other guys, so he can take these hits. But it will wear him down, or he'll get hurt, as you say here. So that's not a bad count. You know what it is, Bill? I've checked the cords. I got a problem with a port or something on my computer because my docking station. The cord from my docking station, the docking station's in my monitor to my laptop. My monitor keeps going on and off. Maybe it's a bad cord. I got another one I should probably try, but it's just frustrating as hell. So anyway, thank you though for that AV tip. We're the other night. I was having all kinds of audio problem. The other night I lost my audio for like 10 minutes. I couldn't hear Jim Barringer on the college football huddle. He couldn't hear me. I couldn't hear him. Actually, I think he did hear me. The audience was hearing both of us. I had the sound turned down on my freaking computer. I'm checking my soundboard. I'm checking everything. Allen, Vikings won the North, which we know. The 49ers won the West. We know all that. Yes, the Eagles can win the East. Okay. Yeah, I got it. I'm more interested in the teams that aren't going to clinch today because there's a lot of things. This is week 14. And by the way, these guys clinching, it can be a blessing or a curse, depending on how it's going to get interesting in weeks 17 and 18, how teams start to approach how they play. And I don't think guys ought to be sitting, if you got home field advantage, you still got something to play for. Some teams won't do it. That bye week means something. But even if there's nothing to play for, you should play your guys. Teams too often get scared, especially if the Eagles will be a great example. If they wrap up the home field with 2 weeks left, how do they play their guys? If it's me, I play them just like it's a regular game. And you can tell me, but guys could get hurt. You got to protect them. You can't have guys playing a little bit of football and for 2 weeks and then no football for a week and expect them to come back sharp. During the Patriots' 20-year run, there was a lot of regular season games where they could, especially at the end of the season, where they could have sat Tom Brady. They could have sat starters. And you know what? They never did it. Never. With nothing to play for at the end of the season, Tom Brady would play, 59 minutes. And that's why they go into the playoffs sharp and other teams come in flat because they try to outsmart themselves. They just overthink things. Football players are geared to play football. If you get hurt, you were meant to get hurt. You get hurt in practice. I don't think you can say he was a bust, Billy. He played pretty good football. And I'm a Zach Wilson fan, to be honest with you. I've had to defend him, but he lost me with his nonsensical comments in the press conference after the Patriot game, which led to his benching and being inactive the last 3 weeks. And I think it's going to be very difficult. This team was behind. The team was totally behind Mike White, and Mike White played pretty good football. Unlike last year where he came in and was, awesome for against the Bengals, and he came back and was terrible. He hasn't been terrible at all. And I'll tell you what, I've never seen a more gutty performance than I saw out of him last week against the Bills. And do I think the Jets are better off with Zach Wilson right now? Nope. I know Zach's 5-2, but there's very little of that 5-2 that had a lot to do with Zach Wilson's performance. And it's sad because he's not mature. He's got talent. But I'm starting to wonder if New York's too big a stage for a kid as immature as this kid. The worries about him coming into the league is that, he was a privileged kid who who was spoiled and he wasn't going to be able to play. And it looked like when he came in, he was saying all the right things. But as these 2 years have progressed and culminating with his comments in the press conference after the Patriot game, this kid doesn't get it. He's not matured even a little bit, and he needs to grow up if he wants to be a leader of men. So he needs to get it together. There's Rick Sherrill. I skipped. I'll go back. You're meeting with my cardiologist? How long do I have? Oh, Cowboys will prove that wrong on Christmas Eve. 49ers won't beat them with Purdy. He's beating everybody else. Again, you may be right. But again, losing one game, I don't think matters. It's a regular season game. Talk to me in the playoffs. When the Cowboys start winning playoff games, talked about this with Alan on his roundtable show Wednesday. Until the Cowboys start winning playoff games and getting to at least the NFC Championship game, please stop talking to me about the Cowboys. They're not an elite team until they do that. Dak is not an elite quarterback until he gets to an NFC Championship game. At least. I'm not asking a lot. Just saying. Rick, I did, and we can circle back to this, and then I'll go to the, I got a lot of comments to get here, so you got time to do this. I'd love to get your comments, and maybe they were in here somewhere, Rick. I talked about the Viking game already. And yes, history-making win. But if I'm a fan, I mean, this isn't a 33-point comeback against even the Cowboys or the 49ers or even the Lions. This is for 33. You fell into a 33-point hole against one of the worst teams in football. That's got to concern you as a Viking fan. Great win, and we all spin this. I would spin it as well. Allen spun the Cowboy near loss to the Texans last week. I've spun lots of games that way when the Patriots have come back. A lot of those comebacks were against really good teams. That's what really matters, though. You can't just dismiss, and I'm sure the coaching staff isn't letting them get too excited about this comeback, because he's reminding them, that whole coaching staff should be reminding them, you found a way to fall in a 33-point hole at home to one of the worst teams in the league. So I'm curious about your thoughts there, Rick, and we'll get there. He's still rooting for the Jets, though. Well, everybody wants the Patriots out. That's fine. Alan, kind of interested in that division race. Panthers host the how can we, here's the problem with there's still a chance, probably better than good chance. I shouldn't say a good chance. It's not a bad chance that the NFC South division winner could be 7-10. Certainly could be under 500. I mean, if you like watching, two wrecks, I mean, I guess if you're a fan of demolition derbies, you can be a fan of what's going to happen here in the NFC South. Watson, Jets gave you in first and goal. I hate to say Watson, because then the people are going to think I'm talking about the other guy. Jets gave you a win, first and goal. Don't know. The defense lost that game, not Zach. Which game? Come on, Billy. If you're talking about the Patriot game, please tell me you're not. Please tell me you're not talking about the Patriot game. The defense lost that game. The defense gave up 3 points. The special teams gave up 7 or 6. And Zach Wilson threw for 77 yards. Please tell me you're not talking about the Jet Patriot game. Yes, I talked about this. I did and when Alan and I did our. This is hilarious. In my mind, did our NFL preview show. I picked the Panthers to win the division and the Bucs not to even make the playoffs, and I can still be right. Now, I didn't think they'd do it at 8-9, and I thought it would be because Matt Rule's system really took hold. McCaffrey would be healthy and run wild. That Baker Mayfield would be a good fit at quarterback, throwing the ball to Robbie Anderson. None of those guys are there. None of them are contributing to whatever remains of this season. Jaguars on the move. Listen, I don't think they got a shot here. What are they, 5-8? Again, they got to run the table to have any chance at all. I don't see them running the table. I'm interested to see what kind of game they can give Allen's Cowboys today. I'll give them a puncher's chance because look at this team has played really close football. They've scored just as many points, exactly as many points as they've given up. At 5-8, that's not bad. And I said earlier, they need to learn how to win football games. Watch out for this team next year. They're going to be really good. And they're going about it. They built this team the right way. And they've hired the right coach. So you're seriously, Billy. Let me check with Rick, see what my cardiologist said before I answer this. So you're seriously going to sit there and tell me that your quarterback threw for 77 yards the entire game. Your defense, by the way, special teams is not defense. They're two different things. That's why there's a special teams coordinator and a defensive coordinator. They're two totally different things. Mostly there's special teams players on special teams. There are some defensive guys, yes, that will play on special teams if they're very good at it. But one has nothing to do with the other. The special teams gave up a long punt return to lose the game. Your offense scored 3 points the entire day, 60 minutes. Your quarterback threw for 77 yards. And you're going to tell me Zach Wilson was right to go into the press conference. And when he's asked, do you feel like you let your defense down? It was okay for him to say no. Grow up, Zach Wilson. And if you don't grow up, you're not making it in this league. And you're not making it in New York, I can tell, or New Jersey. Sorry, they don't even play in New York. They play in New Jersey. Oh, Billy, come on. I know you're not serious. Please tell me you're trying to push my buttons, which is fine. I like that. Makes for good show. But please tell me you're not serious, or I'm going to have to set up an intervention for you because you're obviously hammered. Where are you? Are you home? Somewhere you've been drinking all day. 10-1 score. 10-1 score wins. 10-1 score wins the season. 10-1 score wins the season in games they lost last year. I don't have blinders on about the defense. Good. First, you need to get the playoffs and anything can happen. I don't disagree. But we've seen what Kirk Cousins can do in the playoffs, and it's not pretty. And listen, it's a good win. Any win's a good win. You are what your record says you are. I say that all the time. But I'd be concerned falling behind 33-0 to this team. Oh, they can still win. And by the way, winning those close games is important. I'm not going to dismiss the fact that, that can help you later on. But unfortunately, you're not going to play any teams like the Colts in the playoffs. Yeah, I can't see the Titans again. That's a good point, Alan. I think we talked about this the other day. I keep losing sight of that. They likely have a better shot. We're talking about the Jaguars. Likely have a better shot of winning the South than they do of getting a wild card. And they beat the Titans too, right? So now they got another game against the Titans. Could be interesting. I just don't think they're ready. I don't think the team's ready. They've played some really good football games. They've played some really bad football games. But again, this is a team I think that will be reckoned with. I think they'll be the favorites to win that division next year. Their Cubs, however, future. We got to get to baseball too. I want to talk a little bit about that. Their Cubs, however, the future. I'm not sure. Special teams doesn't have neither does a freaking defense. Billy, what are you talking about? Now you're not making any sense. I mean, it's starting to sound like Carlos, for crying out loud. Every show, Alan's got to get in his Lions prediction. Well, they do have a shot. I don't think they're getting in, but what are they, 6? They have 6 wins? Where are they? 6 and 7. They play. You look at what they are a big surprise this year for sure. Their defense though is so bad. I guess they're in a race with the team formerly known as the Redskins and the Giants for that last spot. Don't know. See. Pickles is here. Can't get your comment up here, Pickles. Hold on. Titans will back into the playoffs. I agree. I mean, I don't think they're going anywhere. Not as long as Ryan Tannehill is their quarterback. I think they're done. Why didn't Tom Crying Brady come out for the post-game interview? When? Oh, my God. I'm not going to talk. I don't care. Nobody cares about Tom Brady anymore. Tom Brady is done. Tom should have stayed retired. I said this before the year. This is not a good football team. He made a colossal mistake. Now, obviously, there was things going on in his personal life. He should have retired because he hurt this team by missing at least half a training camp, if not more, missing time during practice weeks early in the season. He hurt this team. That's all I got to say about Tom Brady. His career needs to end. Oh, Jaguars, Cubs, gotcha. They're going to be a really good football team. They get in over Seattle and New York. Name redacted will get the 6th seed and the Lions 7th seed. Possible. Well, whatever the reason, you got to play better defense than that, man. You can't, because you're not, I mean, you certainly can't fall at, well, it's unlikely it'll fall 33 points in a hole to anybody, I hope. But you can't expect to do that again. I gotcha. Anyway, let's get to our pick'em. I'll go through the games and then we'll talk a little baseball. We can, and Billy, if you want to continue to tell me the Giants defense, I'm not blaming your special teams, by the way, when your offense barely mustered 100 yards offense that day. My gosh. Anyway, last week in the pool, Drew with 8. Good job, Drew. Pedro T, who I don't know, had 6. Really tough week. Holy crap. Really tough week. Alan with 6. B with 6. Carlos with 5. That's a good week for him, actually. Waldo had 4. Not surprising. Our leader, Steve Craw, S. Craw, who we don't know who that is, had 4. ESPN fan, who I do not know, had 3. CA with a tough week with only 3 winners last week as well. Our overall leader remains S. Craw with 107. Drew has moved within 2 at 105. CA, I'm sorry, that's I misread that. Sorry, that's CA with 105. Drew has moved within 2 of CA with 103. The rest of us are likely out of it. I'm tied with the Boomer Sooner at 99. And then we fall back to Billy at 93. And Headless Horseman at 910. And Carlos of the people still playing every week. 79 wins. Not good, buddy. Sorry, I'm rude. Should I share this? I'm not going to share it today, guys. I didn't get it ready. So anyway, Here's my picks for today. I'll tell you what I did so far this week. I had the 49ers, which was a winner on Thursday. I had the Vikings yesterday, which is a loss. I lost by half a point in the cigar box, but a point and a half here. The Ravens I had as well, so not a good start for me. One win. Oh, I had the Bills as well. So I've got 1 out of 4 so far this week. The rest of the card, in some of the games that Alan was talking about, or one of the games Alan was talking about, the Saints and the Falcons. The only people who care about this game are fans of the Falcons, the Saints, the Bucks, and the Panthers. That's it. I think I've got New Orleans at home in this game -3. Chicago and the Eagles. I got to take the Eagles -8.5 at home. The Bears have kind of imploded here after playing some decent football midseason. The Bears have kind of gone back to where we would have expected them to be. I am going to do this in a really interesting game, the Jets and Lions today. I'm going against my better judgment, and I'm taking the Jets -0.5 point. All you got to do is pick a winner. I will take the Jets in this game. I'll give Zach Wilson the benefit of the doubt. I think he's going to struggle. I'm not going to say this team won't play for him. What I'm saying is this team played much harder for Mike White. And if you didn't see them playing harder, I don't think you're really paying attention, because Mike White, the team loves Mike White. The players love Mike White. They don't love Zach Wilson. Panthers in another exciting game from that NFC South. I will take the Panthers -2.5 against the Steelers. The Steelers are terrible. Pickett's out. I'll take them -2.5. I'll take the Jaguars at home +4.5. I don't know that they're going to win this game, but I do think that this could be a field goal game based on what I saw the Cowboys last week. Now, the Cowboys are kind of a roller coaster team. They could go in there and win 40-3, I suppose, as well, but I will take the Jaguars +4.5. Impossible to take the Texans, no matter what I saw last week. I will take and lay the big wood, especially since the Texans may have played their Super Bowl last week. Excuse my hand on my microphone. I'll take the Chiefs -14.5. And I will take, I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I'm going with the Cardinals +1.5 at the Broncos. I just switched that pick. So, I was on Denver, and with Russell Wilson out again, I think I will take the awful, these are 2 awful football teams, by the way. Maybe 2 head coaches that will get fired. If anybody gets fired, by the way. The NFL has kind of warned teams to kind of keep an eye out on what you're doing with coaches and their firings. $800 million this year being paid to coaches that have been fired in the NFL. And no surprise to any of you, I will, in the Josh McDaniel Bowl, I will take the Patriots +0.5 at the Raiders. Again, look at the Patriots played a good football game last week. Mac Jones has been getting better. His numbers aren't terrible. I mean, not a lot of touchdowns. His decision-making has gotten much better. He hasn't turned the ball over the way that he was. He's completing almost 70% of his passes without a lot of help around him in those skill positions. But the Raiders find a way to blow games right and left. I wouldn't doubt they get ahead in this game and the Patriots come back and win at the end. Very important game for the Patriots for their playoff chances. Even though I want the Chargers to lose, I will take the Chargers -3.5 against the Titans. The Chargers getting healthy at the right time here. Keenan Allen rounding into form. Mike Williams back last week. Herbert is a really good quarterback, and he gets all his weapons going. He'll be tough. Cincinnati, I'm going to take them -3.5 on the road against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's shown me nothing. They beat a couple of teams they probably shouldn't have beat late in games. They have managed to kind of stay in the race here. In fact, leading the division, but only because of where they're playing. In the Giants and Commander game, Commander. team formerly known as the Redskins. I will pick team formerly known as the Redskins minus 4.5. And because they're making me pick the Monday night game, I will take the Packers minus 7.5. There's my picks for this week. Let's see what we got here. We got a lot of comments. I don't know if we're going to get to baseball at all. Here we go. Oh, we got that. Lock, Detroit upset. I'm sorry, lock, Detroit upset New York Giants. Well, good as any. Glad I was in the woods taking those matchups off. Exciting last month is nice instead of a 2-horse race. Yeah, it's nice to have a lot of teams alive, and that's what the NFL wants. They want parity. I'm not always crazy about it, but because there's a lot of bad teams in the league, guys. I've never seen so many bad football teams in one season. Half the league is just atrocious. What I named to you the other day, 14 teams or something. Let me do it real quick. Who's really, really bad? The Browns, the Steelers, the Colts, the Texans, the Broncos, the Raiders, the Packers, the Bears. That's 8. Tampa Bay, Carolina, Atlanta, New Orleans. That's 12. Arizona and the Rams. 14 really bad football teams. Really bad. What's Pickles got here? Upset special. Bears 25, Eagles 23. That's a big upset. Pickles not taking it the safe route here today. Zach is playing linebacker today to help the defense. Oh. Oh, Billy, I just don't. I'm confused. Broncos by 3. Interesting pick. That's a toss-up. Who cares? Jeff Saturday needs to be happened with what happened on Saturday. I agree. Raiders by 3. Pickles, you got to get in our pool next year. Cowboys win by 6 in OT. Walk-off touchdown. That's a very specific prediction. Where's cousin Eddie? Is that Mancini? Mark Mancini is doing some serious radio stuff today, so he wasn't able to make it with us. The Chargers will torch the Titans secondary. I kind of agree with that. Pickles, I like that pick. Washington by 6. I like that pick. Are you selling stars on your site? I have an offer. Am I selling stars? Do you sell stars? What is that? What and what's the offer? First of all, I need to know what that is. And second of all, I need to know what the offer is for what I don't understand. Neil likes the Bears upset. Interesting. I'm assuming Josh Fields is playing today, so we'll see how that goes. Rams by 4. How can you take the Rams? Are bad. They got no quarterback. Well, Baker Mayfield, but I think Baker will come back to earth. The defense isn't playing as good as it did. Aaron Donald's out again this week, maybe out for the year, I think. I've never been a big Baker Mayfield fan. Nice job last Monday night, last Thursday. Cowboys score 40 today. Same way they did after that awful Green Bay loss. Well, maybe last week's game wakes them up. Again, there's a lot of ways to spin that, right? You played bad and you still found a way to win. So let's do a little bit of baseball real quick because we've only got about 8 or 9 minutes. But I wanted to go through the the hell with it. Let me just start over here. MLB. We had a couple big signings this week. Let's get in here. Dansby Swanson signs a huge contract with the Cubs. Really good player. I think this hurts the Braves really big time. I can't believe the Braves let this kid walk away. This is similar to the Freddie Freeman deal last week. 2 homegrown guys. They just refuse to pay the money. I like the signing for the Cubs a lot. I think the Cubs have made some interesting moves this year. If Cody Bellinger maybe getting out of LA helps him revive his career, we'll find out. But I think this is just an interesting move for the Cubs, who look like they're all in on getting back to being a competitive team, if nothing else. Hector Rondon signs a big long-term contract with the Yankees. I'm not crazy about it. I know Rondon was good last year. I know he's an all-star. I know has thrown a no-hitter, and that was pitching in San Francisco. And I know it's a big city, but it's not like playing in New York. And for most of Rondon's time in Chicago, he struggled. He's had arm injuries. Again, the Yankees can afford to make this move. It's just money. There's no hard salary cap that can pay a luxury tax if they have to. And Aaron Boone and Cashman and a lot of the fans. I got into a bit of a verbal skirmish with one of my fans messaging me about this the other day, and he just wouldn't accept. He says, "Why don't you like him?" I don't really care for Hector Rondon. That's it. He's been good. He's been a good pitcher the last 2 years, but the first 6 years of his career, he was terrible with injuries. Don't think he's a great bet to really do well here. Yankees, and again, the Yankees have had a history of bringing in guys, good to decent major league pitchers, who could not pitch here. It's different than any place else you can play. Baker returns to being Baker, packed by 14. I agree. Cowboys by 9. I think it's going to be a field goal game. Carlos Rodon, whatever. Benintendi signs with the White Sox. Yeah, I was going to get to that. These two moves I've talked about so far are the biggest moves of the week. And so Benintendi goes to the White Sox. That hurts the Yankees. They really wanted him to be back and play left field. They've got to come up with another plan. There's a few other free agents out there. Michael Conforto. I think it's more likely they may look to go for a trade. Arizona has a couple of guys available. One's a really good defensive player. The name's escaping me at the moment. I'll get to it. But they've got to fix left field. They got to fix third base. It's most likely they're going to play one of the kids, probably Peraza at shortstop. They still could trade. They still could trade Torres for some pitching. Doubtful of trading for pitching now. Although Rodon, whatever the frick his name is, I'm not a big fan of. Elsewhere, let me just go down this chronologically. We talked about Swanson, 7 years, $177 million. There's a lot of money getting thrown around, in Major League Baseball. And I think it's because everybody's flush right now because of Apple, Peacock, it's soon to be Amazon probably getting involved in the TV negotiations. All these teams are flush, and it could come back to haunt them here later on. We talked about Benintendi signing a 5-year deal for $75 million. Yankees wouldn't go to 5 years. See, I don't have a problem giving Andrew Benintendi 5 years for $75 million. I'd rather do that than give any pitcher 6 or 7 years. Joey Gallo, the immortal Joey Gallo, signs a 1-year, $11 million contract with the Twins. Good luck. The wind chill is going to get really cold up there in the spring and the fall. We talked about Rodon. What did I call him? Ronda. I don't even know what I called him. I could care less. I'm not interested in this guy. I'm not. And again, when I say these things, is I had to explain to the Yankee fan that was calling me out because he didn't want to accept my explanation. I want to be wrong. Anytime I predict something for my team, I want to be in a negative light. I want to be wrong. I don't want to be right. The Tigers bolstered their rotation by signing Michael Lorenzen, who's probably a better hitter than he is a pitcher. The Orioles reach a one-year deal with Adam Frazier, who's been with Seattle, I think, the last couple of years. Nice guy who can play all over the field. That'll help the Orioles don't want to take a step backwards. This could really help them. Syndergaard joins the Dodgers. Carlos Correa signs a big deal with the Giants. 13 years, $350 million. I think he'll be 41 when that ends. Giants signed Ross Stripling as they continue to try to retread pitchers. Chris Bassett signs with the Blue Jays. Mets will have to look elsewhere there. And the Athletics trade Sean Murphy and get I don't know who. They get a bunch of kids. Milwaukee gets William Contreras from the Brewers. The Braves. And the Braves get Sean Murphy from Oakland for a bunch of pitchers. Mets on Kadia Senge, the unknown talent from Japan on a 5-year, $75 million contract. I think that's a big gamble for the Mets, but we'll see. They also give Nemo a bunch of I know it's not Nemo. Alan, please don't type. Don't start typing. I will call him Nemo forever. And the rest we've already talked about. So let me get to your comments before we got to wrap it up. It's 10:26, and I've got to get this show wrapped up so we can get it on Roku. Listen. I don't mind having another lefty. Are injuries ever behind a guy? Now I say it with Judge. So again, I guess I've got to maybe temper my argument here a little bit. It's not just the injuries. I worry about any guy's makeup coming here. I'd love to see what his numbers will be. You look back at his years in Chicago. He was pitching okay when he got traded in midseason a couple years ago. But up until that, before that, and it wasn't just the injuries, man. He didn't pitch well in Chicago. You get out there in the relative obscurity of San Francisco, he pitched fine. Yeah, Ranger, everybody's in a mix for Conforto. Did any player in baseball hurt themselves worse than Michael Conforto by not signing the extension with the Mets that they had on the table? He cost himself, I don't know how many tens of millions of dollars. I don't want IKF playing third base. Not enough offense. I need offense out of that position. I need DJ and whomever else. I need Josh Donaldson off the team. They haven't been able to trade Donaldson. They haven't been able to trade Hicks. I don't care if they have to eat their contracts. Those guys cannot be on the roster next year. What do we got here? I got to make sure I don't run out of. I got fun time. Good to have you, Billy. And I know you don't believe Zach Wilson didn't lose that game for your team. Argentina up by 1. Good call. Argentina and France in the World Cup. Lots of football today, guys. Thanks for joining me. As always, you guys are the best. I love getting into little verbal squabbles with you guys. Always fun. Hope you guys have a great Sunday football. Watch the rest of the World Cup. Enjoy. We got some big matchups in that NFC South today. Patriots Raiders, go Pats. Thank you, TGI Sports Talk. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Maybe Saturday next week. I'll post some stuff. We're not doing a show Christmas Day, but maybe I'll do a show Saturday morning. You guys can feel free to send me a message and say whether you'd be around and be interested in participating. Please, guys, my regulars, send me a note. Let me know whether you want to do a show Saturday morning or not. Good to have you guys. Have a great Saturday. Good luck. Robert's a great guy. Keith Engel, out.